and thanks for watching or listening to the latest episode of VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you've downloaded and had a listen on iTunes and Spotify, a nice review will be great. I'm Steve Lillis, and with me, my usual co-pilot, John Evans. You okay there, John? John's miles away there. Yeah, John's
good,
okay.
Steve. Yeah, we're just cramming these in between the in between the Euro 2020.
Yeah, well, that's why our guess isn't going to stay, mate. If we're not done within that 20 minutes, it will be 3 minutes every round. Special guest, a man out of everyone I know in boxing. He must be the biggest football nut. He talks about that more on Twitter and social media than boxing. He's boxed, he's managed, promoted, now doing big things as a trainer mainly. And I think he manages one or two fighters. It's Dave Coldwell. Dave, thanks for joining us and getting you away from Croatia, just dragging you away from Croatia, Spain, in between the next game between France and Switzerland on this Monday night. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be on, mate. It's good to be on, and thanks for fitting me in the little time slot that I've got.
Yeah, right. I tell you what, I won't even ask you any questions about, well, I'll ask you one question. Is there a better singer in the gym than Lerone Richards?
No, do you know what? He shocked us. He can sing. He's
Serious?
all right, isn't he? Yeah, he's all right.
I know he can fight as well. He's a very good boxer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I think he's a little bit better at boxing than he is singing.
Oh, I don't know. Well, he's good, very good at both.
Hey, Dave, you remember when Roy Jones used to wrap himself into the ring? Are we going?
Yeah.
Can we see Lerone?
Yeah, as long as it's not on cross buns. I mean, he needs to mix it up a little bit. I can't see him coming out to that.
All right, then. Well, you've been on before. I think you was on earlier this year, or early in the year, Dave. 6 topics. You've picked out a couple of the 6. 3 minutes discussion each round. John, have you got your bell ready?
Got my bell ready. Got the timer ready.
Round 1 is over to you, John, and guys not getting attention.
Yeah, it's not really a complaint. It's just more to give Jay Harris a bit of a shout. You know, there was a couple of the sports biggie stars fighting, weren't there, this weekend with Gervonta and Lomachenko in big sold-out arenas, big meaningful fights. And then we had the type of fight which reminds me just how tough this sport is, where you had Jay Harris fighting an unknown, unheralded guy from the west coast of America who's been brought up in them gyms. And it was a real hard, high-quality, meaningful world title final eliminator. Jay came up just short, but I thought it was a tremendous fight. Jay gave his all, fighting another world-class flyweight. You know, he's been unfortunate to go up against a couple of these guys now. And I just think it's a reminder that while people are fighting in front of sold-out arenas and pay-per-view events and everything, there's also fat guys making the hardest living you can imagine in small halls and not really getting the attention. So I just thought I'd give Jay Harris a shout and say what a good fight it was and well done.
I think you're right there. I mean, the problem that we've got in sport, in all sports, but especially in boxing for us, is that there are so many gems and so many really good fighters and some cracking fights that are going off away from the big screens. Now, that's always going to happen because obviously all eyes are going to be on the big names. You know, a lot of fighters start off at a lower level and then find a way, they keep grinding away on undercards and then get to the big fights. And then rightly so, the big profiles with a big promoter on a big TV network. And obviously people are going to, in the mainstream, are going to be aware of them and going to watch them. But the problem is these guys, you know, that are away from the big shows, they're putting just as much in, but they're getting not as much out. You know, they're not on the big wages. They're not on, like you say, you know, they've not got the big endorsements because they haven't got the eyes on them. And it just shows you, like you say, just how hard this sport is. It really, really is. There's like 1% that are making the big money, 1% that are making the, you know, getting all the eyes on them. And then everybody else is grinding away and just, you know, dreaming and hoping and working towards that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you think that 1%, you think, you know, what I always say when I speak to fighters is, but I lose Jay Harris as a prime example. He's had that fight with, was it Cesar Martinez, the WBC champion? He's had that fight the other night. And I wouldn't mind betting he's not come away with 60 grand maybe for the 2 fights because of the money there is at flyweights. And what always fascinates me is that people believe that fighters are earning fortunes because he's had a world title fight and a big final eliminator. There's that people think that he's made for life. And, he'll be back at work if he's worked in a couple of weeks, I guess, because he just hasn't got enough. And, that goes on what you say about that one might. Right, I tell you, round 2, right or wrong. And this is one I really wanted to bring Dave on here. Been a fair bit of debate about Floyd Mayweather in between the round, going up to the apron and giving orders to Gervonta Davis the other night. Show them how great you are. You're behind on the cars, whatever he was saying to you. I know it was show him you're great. I just wonder if he's right or wrong. I don't train or boxers. That's why I wanted Dave's opinion to be more valid than mine. I think it's wrong to these guys to go up the apron because it's just totally disrespecting the trainer who spent that 8 weeks with them. Obviously, you get encouragement during rounds, but I just didn't find that a good thing. And the trainer sort of looked out the ring a bit. Didn't know what to do when that happened. I just wondered what your opinion on these sort of situations are, Dave, more than anything.
I see where you're coming from, and on straight away at first glance you think, yeah, that's right. But we don't know what goes off behind closed doors in that gym. We don't know whether Mayweather does have hands-on work with Gervonta Davis. I know he advises him and manages him or promotes him, or whatever. I have seen him on the pads with him a couple of times. But we don't know whether he works with his coach and advisors on a day-to-day basis. If that's the case, then he's just another part of the team, training team, but not in the corner. And also, that's probably why perhaps it explains that the coach, who's well established out in the States, just looks over and just lets him, speak. And also, you've got to look at is Davis. He's looking at him for that guidance, at him for that advice. So maybe there's more to it than what we think. If he isn't part of the training team, then yeah. But also at that point, that's when the coach has got to say, focus on what I'm telling you, because he's the one that's in charge. He's the one that trains with him. We've got the game plan, everything. But also, you've also got to look at it's Mayweather. So maybe he has that clout, that has that pull, and it's like when as mums and dads and as fans and everybody are shouting for us and shouting advice at ringside. I'm dealing it myself. I'm sat at ringside. I'm shouting for a mate. I don't expect him to stop and look and listen to me, but you do anyway. Do you know what I mean? But I can see both sides from that.
What do you think,
I just hope it's not a case of Floyd parachuting himself in on the night, because I know there was a bit of, I don't know if it was arguments or complications about Floyd wanting Gervonta to move from Baltimore out to Vegas, wasn't there? And Floyd wanted him in that gym. Gervonta wanted to be back in Baltimore. So I just hope that Floyd is involved because he's a real talent. And I just hope it's not a case of Floyd parachuting himself in to get attention on the night.
So you see, that's the possibility there.
Dave, your first topic, you want to talk about prospects not getting enough credit?
Yeah, it's not so much not getting enough credit. It's what sometimes it irritates me, but sometimes it's just a case of like, where does this come from? It seems though when a prospect's coming through, even when it's domestic level, they win a British title or European title or whatever. If they're not knocking people out, you always get this. Yeah, but when he steps up to world level, he's going to get found out. As though in order for you to become a world-class fighter, you need to be knocking people out. Boxing's littered with prospects that then go on to become champions that aren't big punchers, that aren't winning every fight by KO, that are winning on boxing skills, hitting and not getting hit, and outboxing opponents. And some fighters even have tear-ups, even though they're not big knockout merchants, but still win those fights at world level. So sometimes it just irks me a little bit where you get with commentators and fans, just people in general. They seem to think and just be quickly to write off a fighter, no matter how he's performing. He may put on a clinic, but when he steps up, and that just irritates me a little bit sometimes.
No, I think you've got a good point. I mean, you imagine someone like Sonny Edwards.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You've got Sonny Edwards, you've got Floyd Mayweather. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of fighters that become world champions that aren't one-punch knockout men.
Yeah, I mean, and even when you go back in his world title fights, he did what he had to do to win your all-time idol, Johnny Nelson. But
Yeah.
but I tell you what, Johnny could punch when he wanted to punch. Trust me, I saw him knock out Lou Gent at your call one night, and it was savage.
You see, I see it as though that as long as you hit hard enough to get respect off them, then you can win the fights. It's not a problem.
But you can also break their heart like Sonny Edwards can do with, the way his feet move and stuff like that. You know, you've got guys that break your heart. You think you're in range, and that like you're against Sonny Edwards, and he's that little half-inch out of range because he knows because he's read you as well.
Yeah, there's guys who are clearly pure boxers like Sonny who don't need that knockout punch. That's their style, isn't it? They're going to try and outbox people. Maybe it gets leveled at guys who are getting it done on work rate,
But I get it on one of my fighters, Jordan Gill. Every time he boxes, and he boxed Bellotti, who's a big puncher, outboxed him completely, put on a clinic. Boxer Cesar Suarez, who's a proven puncher at world level, completely clinic, boxed him. And every time he boxes, it's he doesn't hit enough. He doesn't hit hard enough. Lerone Richards puts on a great boxing thing, doesn't hit hard enough. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you keep winning. If you keep winning, and
you're right. Right, TV channels and all these different subscription networks. Gervonta's fight at weekend was brilliant, wasn't it? But no sooner did he got out the ring and you start thinking, he could fight. Imagine a fight with Loma. Imagine a fight with Lopez. Imagine the event Ryan Garcia would be. Floyd comes along with a big pin and just bursts it by saying he's never going to fight anybody outside of our stable. And I just wonder now, with so many people looking for subscription fees, so many people looking for pay-per-view money, and boxing's a business, let's not forget that. Is it going to become more and more difficult to have these cross-divide fights? In America in the past, it used to be HBO and Showtime, didn't it? And eventually they used to get together. But now it's HBO, Top Rank, DAZN, ESPN. They've all got their own little stables. They all want to build their own stars. They don't speak about the other fighters on the other networks. And are these unification fights and best of the best fights going to get even more difficult to make? And are we going to see even less of them?
Yeah, I think, I think so many of these, hopefully not, because as you say, when you said you were coming on this topic, I wrote down Showtime HBO, particularly with Lewis fights in the 90s. I remember when Lewis fought Tucker in the early 90s, because of the HBO Showtime rivalry, it went for something like $12 or $13 million. Imagine what that was in the early 90s. I think these fights, I think with these with the promoters now, that UFC model is in the mind of a lot of them. I think it's almost like the PBC when they first started out. It was that they had made no qualms about it. They had this plan, their own belt, and I think and that UFC model, I can see a lot copying it. I think Eddie's looking that way with DAZN, and certainly PBC are looking that way. I just think that's a model they're following, and hoping they can attract the fighters. What's your opinion, Dave?
Listen, I think it's on the fighters. If a fighter wants to be great and somebody's seen as the best man in that division across promotion, he's got to tell his promoter he wants that fight making. But fighters have got to remember is the promoters work for them. So if a fighter's just chasing the money, they can have them defense against their own stable. I'm disappointed in Floyd and Davis because they've got an opportunity there to get in that 135-pound mix. You've got Josh Taylor, who's at Top Rank, who's the undisputed champion there. If you want to be the best man at 140, you've got to fight Josh Taylor. If you want to be the best man at 135, you've got to fight either Garcia, Haney, Lomachenko. You've got to go through all that process. You can't turn around and tell you you're great if you're avoiding them fighters to stay in your own stable. You can't do that.
Do you think this UFC model is the way a lot of them see it now? A lot of promoters see it now, Dave?
Yeah, because I've seen how UFC's taken off.
Yeah.
But UFC model.
You can finish off on that one in a little bit if we've got time.
Round 5, as Deontay Scott it. Well, Deontay Wilder now trained by Malik Scott. I do think Tyson Fury beats him again. I just think, people are, all I'm seeing around Deontay is negativity about Malik Scott, what Malik Scott could do did as a fighter, and people. that's reading negativity about him, and Deontay in particular. Like, he went to the press conference with Tyson Fury last week. People were commenting on him as if he's, the federal had issues, had lost his marbles. That was just the way he was on the night. Steve Collins did that against Chris Eubank with whatever he had in his earphone that night. It was probably music, and he was lauding. I just find a lot of the stuff being said about their partnership and the way Wilder was at the press conference pretty cruel.
I think, personally, I think.
I want.
Go on, Dave.
Go on.
No, go on, Dave.
Yeah, I think personally, Wilder's brought a lot of negativity on himself by all the excuses he's made, first of all. So
That's
people are going to pot shot him. Whatever he says, they're going to shoot because he's made that many excuses. But let me just say about Malik Scott. He may not have been the greatest fighter in the world, but the man knows boxing, right? He's got a very, very good IQ when it comes down to boxing, and in the ways of hitting and not getting hit, and in the old school sort of methods a little bit as well. Now, Deontay Wilder, I've seen little clips of him on the pads. I know pads is pads. Anyone can look great on pads. But I look at his feet. I'm looking at his left hand work. I'm looking at his movement. It looks sharper. It looks better. It's not just one dimension looking for that one right hand. So if he's improved, and if he can find a range for that right hand, he can knock anybody out. I don't care who it is. If he gets that right hand off and gets into position to round that right hand, he can clean Tyson Fury out. I'm not saying he's going to, but he can do. When it comes down to the earphones, if a man has already proven it can get into your head, why not stick some earphones on and not listen to him and not give him any chance of getting into your head again? Because Fury's done that with Vladimir Klitschko, who's cool as a cucumber and cool as anyone can be, got into his head and rattled him and put doubts into his head before the first bell went. And then you're looking at how he did with Wilder. You see how negative, how hesitant Wilder was in order to let his bombs go. And so it allowed Fury to have that little bit of time to do what he wanted to do and then get into his rhythm and get into his pattern. So if he can do anything to stop Fury from getting to his head, why not?
Yeah, I just wonder if part of it was Fury thrives on arguments and energy and that fire Fury right way through his training camp. I just wonder if Malik told him, don't give him anything to get his teeth into, just let him leave him wondering rather than getting involved in another head-to-head and giving Tyson something to really think about through training.
Final round before Dave gets off for the football. Vasyl Lomachenko.
Yeah, do you know what? Loma's back, and for me, I was excited to see him back, and I want him to put on a statement because it's really irritated me. I mean, me and the lads in the gym, we talk about this. Lomachenko, look at his career. When I'm talking about fighters and taking control and saying, I want this, I want that, and trying to prove how great they are, look at his resume. Look at what he's done. Look at the fight with Gary Russell, and Gary Russell's a top level fighter. You look at his resume. He's got a fantastic resume. But then he loses that fight against Lopez. And it wasn't a wide fight. Forget about the scores. It was a close fight. He clawed it back, but he gave him too much of an head start. Now, you can say that was part of it because his shoulder. But also, you can also say if he possibly felt Lopez's power. And Lopez is a very good fighter, very much bigger. But one loss, everybody starts kicking him out of all equation when it's talking about who's best at 135. I'm like, okay, not one lot. He's had two, but I'm talking about in that top level. He lost the one fight against Lopez, and all of a sudden, from being right there, people were dismissing him. So I was excited to see him put on a display. He chased the man for a rematch. He wouldn't have it. So he's chased a man that made him struggle in a fight and put on an absolute brilliant display. Now he's back. Now I want to see people give him the respect that is due, and I want to see that rematch. And I firmly believe that in a rematch, I'm going with Lomachenko.
You've got to think. Lomachenko came up fighting so many amateur fights where he's fought the same guy 3, 4, 5, 6 times. In fact, the only guy who beat him as an amateur, he beat him, was it 3 times in reverse? Yeah. You've got to think that he's got that computer in his head to work out exactly what he did wrong and put it right in a rematch. I was just hoping we'd see the old Lomachenko. He's been out for a while. He had that shoulder injury. He wasn't himself against Lopez. And thank God we saw the old Lomachenko against Nakatani. And I'm with you, Dave. I can't wait for the rematch.
Yeah.
Well, the rematch, they're talking about it in New York in December, and it's almost one of those you just want to be at. But what I love about, and I touched on this last week, what I love about Lomachenko so much, Dave, since 2008, he has been boxing continuously, 13 years at the very, very highest level from that first Olympic gold. You know, there's been no going professional where, you know, you need an 18 months growing into it. He was straight in it. To be fighting 13 years at the highest level, because he only fought in brilliant amateur competitions. I just find that quite stunning. And to me, you know, if he's not in the Hall of Fame first time, there's something criminal about it, and I'm sure he will be.
There we go.
We're done. Well, Dave, we usually have a chat afterwards, but everyone's rushing off for Switzerland, France. You threatened to walk out. What we'll do, Dave, can we get you back on in a few months when there's no football on one night?
Yeah, of course, mate. No problem.
You get back to your son Theo, who's a bit of a footballer. I know. I mean, is he going to go professional? Is he be a pro one day?
Mate, he's 10 years old, but his dream is to be a footballer. He wants to be at the 2028 Euros. He's seen Bellingham making his debut at Euros at 17 years old. He wants to be there in 2028. He'll be 17 then. That's what he wants to do. So he's set his target and he works hard. So why not? Why
shouldn't he set his target either? If you don't have targets, what's the point at a young age?
But I'll tell you what, Dave, there was that much space in that Spain game then. I've seen the little clips of he'd have picked a few passes there, wouldn't he?
I know.
I watched them videos as well. He cracks them from distance as well, doesn't he?
It does. But you see, do you know what it is? It's his brain. He's got such a good brain when it comes to football, and he's got such an amazing attitude. So whether he is football or whatever else he does in life, he's got the right attitude to do well. You know what I mean? He's great at schoolwork. He's great at, with his football. So, he's so far he's ticking all the boxes. He's just got to keep it going, and there's a long way to go yet. So we'll see.
And your daughter, before you go, your daughter's still DJing.
Yeah, she produces and writes, and she's got an EP coming out. She's at the studio she's at, and she's put together some bangers. There's about 8 tracks she's done are absolute wildies, and I can't believe it's her that's done them. She's that good. So she's got an EP that she's going to be putting out soon. We're just sorting out a publisher. So it's exciting. She's very talented at that. But DJing, she just seems to she's self-taught with that, and she just seems to be very, very good at it. So yeah, she's doing
brilliant. Well, Dave, all the best to your family. It's great to see you.
Thanks
two
a lot.
Kids. Your daughter's not a kid anymore. Your young son and your teenage daughter, your late teens, I think she's approached. She's 16, 17.
She's 16, yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, Dave. And John, thanks for joining us as well as usual. And I'll speak to you in the week. And I'll think of that question, another answer, I think. But I'll jump for that third question I've got to do.
Brilliant.
Thanks a lot,
Steve.
fellas.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.